Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Grant Koven,
And I'm Jonah Maple.
and welcome to our very first episode of We Could Do It Better. I am so thrilled that we have finally gotten to do this. We've been talking about, doing this for ever.
Yeah,
like,
years.
Middle school, I think especially, we've been trying to manifest this, and now it's all happening. So I'm so glad that we're finally able to do this. Welcome to Ball State, by the way. I know you've been here for now just about 2 weeks, but it's really nice to have you on. Can you do a little test just to make sure that?
Yeah, hi. I think you can hear me here. No?
Let me try to. I'm trying to make sure that everyone can hear you. They said all they can hear is music, which should not be the case. Your guest. We should. All right. I think we're good.
All right.
All right. This might have been a learning curve. My parents are telling me that all they can hear is music, so I'm gonna hope that the music is gone and they can hear us now. And I hope there's no more music. I tried to turn down the music to the best of my ability. Okay. All right. I think we're good. Sorry. It's been a while since we've got back into the studio. So we are, now I think everything's good.
Yeah, so just a little bit about who we are. We're Grant and Jonah. I'm Jonah. This is my first year at Ball State. I'm a transfer student. I'm from Indianapolis, the Lawrence area. I use they, them pronouns, and I've been a huge nerd all my life, and I've been friends with Grant about as long as you can. About whatever age you can become friends with someone.
I'm pretty sure we shared our first hug. Technically, was when both of our moms were pregnant, and they hugged each other at some point. I think that was our very first time. You were kind of both of us were kind of bumping around in there, But anyways, we've got one heck of an episode to give to you guys today. In case anyone's listening and they're not super familiar with what we're doing, we're nerds. We're huge comic book nerds. We're going to be talking about comics and movies and TV shows. We're going to have all of our bases covered. And we've got a lot to catch up on because there's been a lot in the superhero news lately. And we're going to start it off. I say we just get right into it. So first up, we do have individual segments. So our first segment of the day is going to be called Multiverse of Movies. And first up, we've got Venom, The Last Dance, and Koven the Hunter. Let's start with Venom, because we both watched the trailers right before the show started.
Yeah,
and you had thoughts, I had thoughts. So let's break it down.
Yeah, I'd seen most of the trailers before. I'm okay. Venom 3 and Koven specifically. I'm not.
Let's start with Venom first.
Okay, because this applies to both of them. I have never been a huge. I like Spider-Man. I'm in a Spider-Man show right now.
Yeah.
I've read a lot of Spider-Man. I've watched. I'm not a big fan of Spider-Man without Spider-Man.
Sure.
I think the trailers looked good, especially Venom and some especially the first movie. A lot of that movie looked good. It's very fun.
Yeah.
But it's just something that has never excited me that much.
Right.
I've
seen the Venom movies, and by no means are they any good. I show up, I have a good time, I leave. Venom Let There Be Carnage, we're gonna watch this weekend. I saw it, I thought it was a blast.
Yeah.
But the biggest problem is, and I'm gonna kind of cross into Koven territory right now. But we're making Koven the Hunter rated R, and we didn't make Venom rated R at all. If you look at the trailer, there was a Red Band trailer that got released, and Koven is doing some pretty brutal and awful things. And this is another problem. Is they turn everyone into an anti-hero. No one's a villain at this point.
Okay. Also, is Venom 3 gonna be rated R?
No, it's PG-13.
Okay, because that's wild. Because he eats so many people.
I know. Like he was chopping off heads in the first 30 seconds, and it's still not going to be rated R.
In mainline continuity comics, it's always a thing where like Venom talks about eating people, but I think he's only ever eaten one person.
It's kind of just this new thing that Sony.
But he's introduced. He's like a villain, like more on the villainous side in the movie, like in the comic books and in the movies. But he eats a lot of people, which is like really weird. But it's fun. It's Venom.
Yeah. But it's interesting because we've got I've watched Ted Lasso, but we've got two people from Ted Lasso. I don't know if you've watched Ted Lasso, but
I've seen Ted Lasso.
But we've got Keely Jones. Did you catch that in the trailer? The actress who plays Keely Jones. She's in it, and then Danny Rojas.
I didn't catch Danny Rojas.
He was he was in the beginning where they're capturing the Venom symbiote from the bar after the effects of, what was it? Was it Far From Home?
Yeah, No Way Home.
No Way Home. No Way Home. Where Venom kind of gets, transported temporarily into what I think Kevin Feige is calling 616. I know you hate. I know you hate that they call it 616, but then he was immediately taken out. But the Venom symbiote still got left behind in 616.
That's a discussion for another day because of how weird that post-credit scene is.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll talk about it when the Venom comes sooner. I don't know. I'm gonna watch it. I've seen the first one. I'm planning on seeing the second one this weekend. Maybe the first one again.
Yeah.
Because
they're good watches.
If we want to move on to Koven, because that one is more interesting to me.
I agree.
Because I don't know if you guys have seen the trailer. The one thing I picked up on immediately is I really like music. I love folk music. I love Johnny Cash.
Yeah.
They play the song "The Man Comes Around" throughout the entirety of that trailer by Johnny Cash, which is a very weird choice.
Mm-hmm.
First, because that was the song in Logan.
I did not catch that.
Yeah. The second one is because that is a religious album. Like that is a song baked in religious imagery. I'm not Christian, so I'm not going to pretend to understand all of it.
Yeah.
But that's very weird for Koven. It makes sense with Logan because in that context, Logan is kind of and X-Men is influenced so heavily by Judaism.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I haven't watched all of Koven. Are they going to try to frame Koven as like a Christ figure?
Well, here's what based off of what I've seen and like some of the reviews, they're not trying to make Koven a villain. They're trying to make him just another anti-hero.
Yeah, like an environmentalist person?
Yeah, which is weird. It's really weird because I think
he's a big game hunter.
Exactly. He hunts and I feel like he's not super earth friendly if you're trying to, if you're obsessed with like killing
if you're killing
animals.
Like white rhinos and lions, which I'm sure he's done.
Right. Or rhinos.
Yeah, or rhinos.
Which we have to talk about Rhino for a second. Like I would have been disappointed either way. Like if you would have made him like if we're talking about old school Rhino where it's like the human face inside of the Rhino costume.
Yeah, like it's like a suit.
Right. I still would have had a problem with that because I'm like, that would look really dumb.
It's going to look silly regardless. They made it work in the Spectacular Spider-Man cartoon, but that's a cartoon.
It's a cartoon, right? It's not it looks very heavily CGI.
Yeah, and it has to be, and like sometimes that works. Like we'll talk about this later, but like some of my favorite movies of all time are the newer Planet of the Apes movies, and like you can do good, but like when it's like the Rhino, it looks so weird to see him transform into a Rhino.
Yeah, and it's just like you see like the rocky skin form on him, like because he's injecting himself somehow with this serum, and it looks awful. It's not.
Yeah.
It doesn't work.
I am going to watch it.
Oh, I'm going to watch it regardless. I mean, right now Sony's, universe is just imploding.
No, so I watched Man Web. We're not going to talk about this because Man Web was in January. I don't think you even watched Man Web.
I did. I watched.
You did?
I watched Madam Web.
Oh yeah, you told me. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Sometimes bad movies can be fascinating.
Yeah.
Especially when it's bad, like Madam Web was, for a reason that's like because they had to reshoot and rewrite all of it.
Right.
Madam Web, like probably wouldn't have been The Dark Knight, but probably was a more cohesive story. It is fun to watch. I'm gonna watch every superhero movie, but it's fun to watch.
As hosts, I think we kind of have to.
Yeah, I think we have to. That's my excuse now.
Yeah.
But to watch a movie that is bad and like try to think about why it is bad, and that's fun. It's entertainment.
Yeah.
It's it's wrestling. Sometimes it's not a good story. It's like
right. It's good. It's bad. It's everything in between. But yeah. So regardless, I'm more excited for Venom 3 more than Koven. I think just because like they've kind of turned Venom, this scary looking guy, and into like a laughing stock. But I'm still excited for
his voice is very funny. I like
it does work.
We are Venom. We are Venom. No. Oh. Yeah, we are Venom.
What's the name of that? He played Bane.
Tom Hardy.
Tom Hardy. I like Tom Hardy. I think it's weird and funny. Like it's a little fun how his voice is different in every role. But I think he's a good actor. The Venom voice in particular is funny. It's it'll be a fun movie.
Like they're gonna I think with this specifically, Sony's gonna make their money back with Venom: The Last Dance. Don't know if I can say the same for Kraven the Hunter. I think Venom is kind of gonna have that cult following where it's just sometimes they'll some might say it's so bad it's good. I think they're just mediocre. I don't think they're awful. I don't think they're great, but I think that they'll definitely have a solid turnout for the weekend.
Yeah.
But anyways, do you want to get on to the MCU other than the Sony universe?
Yeah.
We'll start straight up with the Comic-Con announcements.
Yeah, with the Fantastic Four and Doom stuff.
Yeah.
I love Fantastic Four.
Oh, me too.
I am so excited for this movie. I know the casting choices aren't new, but Pedro Pascal as Fantastic Four, Vanessa Kirby as Invisible Woman, I think is great casting. I love Pedro Pascal. I love Vanessa Kirby. They're going to do a great job. I love what we've seen so far in the art and the promotional material.
Well, I mean, you didn't mention Joseph Quinn, who played Eddie Munson in Stranger Things.
Oh, yeah.
He's going to do so well. I'm excited to finally see the, Fantastic Four in here, but the fact that we can have the Fantastic Four and Spider-Man finally do something Human Torch and Spider-Man are kind of frenemies. They're more friends than enemies, but they've definitely had some rivalry before. But that's really exciting to see if we get to see something in the future with the Human Torch and Spider-Man just kind of going around New York City, which still begs the question: who bought Avengers Tower?
I don't think we have time for theories
in
this episode.
We'll get to that.
That can be something that we can talk about in the future.
Yeah.
Because they definitely intended it to be Fantastic Four.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I'm so excited for Fantastic Four. I love Jack Kirby stuff. I'm so excited to see Galactus.
Yeah.
For the first cause a Galactus that's not a cloud.
A cloud. Yeah.
To see all of this stuff in space. I think it's gonna be so fun. I love what looks at the costumes.
Now let's get to Doom.
Yes.
All right.
And Doom is supposed to be in this movie.
He is. He's just gonna prove more of a baddie of for Doomsday and Secret Wars down the road. But it came out that a lot of people had issues. They're like, oh, this better not be, something where it's Tony Stark becoming Victor Von Doom. Robert Downey Jr. did come out and say that he is playing Victor Von Doom.
Okay.
It's not going to be a Tony Stark variant.
Yeah. So, sorry, for everyone who's not tuned into the pop culture, news world, Robert Downey Jr. is going to be playing Victor Von Doom.
Which is insane. When that was first announced, I had a huge issue with that.
That was Okay. That was also announced with the Russo brothers making the next two Avengers movies.
Which is a great move.
I'm very excited about Russo brothers making those movies. I think that they're not done. I don't think that they have I think they still have more to say in this genre. in this universe, and
They just did it so
and
well.
they just make great movies.
Yeah.
Like top to bottom, they make great movies.
Like I trust. Like this is, and the Russo brothers said like Secret Wars is what got them into the comic book realm. So
Yeah.
like that's really awesome, because if they are putting as much passion into something like this, the real reason why they got into all of it, like they can't help but to make a really good movie.
Yeah.
Or movies.
Yeah, I'm very excited about that. I do think we need to address, for Robert Downey Jr. playing Doctor Doom in specific, there is something we need to address, and that is the character Doctor Doom is Romani.
Mm-hmm.
This was something done on purpose by Jack Kirby and Stan Lee, because in a lot of people think that Romani characters should be played by Romani actors because they are underrepresented.
Yeah.
They are a historical minority. And Jack Kirby and Stan Lee, along with Chris Claremont and a lot of the early of like 60s, 70s Marvel characters, when they made someone from Eastern Europe, they made sure to make that character either implicitly or explicitly Romani or Jewish, because of their experiences fighting Nazis and having family members in the Holocaust.
Yeah.
So I do think it is kind of, and you're Marvel. You are under Disney. You can find a Romani actor. This has nothing to do with RDJ being a bad actor, because he's not. And he can't, like, he can play more than just Tony Stark.
Yeah.
Like he's
got range.
He's got range.
Yeah.
Like if you've seen him in Oppenheimer last year, he's a very compelling actor. He can play. He's got range. Like he could do a good Doctor Doom.
I mean, he's gonna pull off a good Doctor Doom.
Yeah, it is just weird. One, because of one of the things that he's not Romani, and two, because he's going to have the face of Tony Stark.
Right.
It's usually under a mask, but they're not going to keep it just under a mask.
No,
they wouldn't hire RDJ.
Someone's gonna take off the mask at some point.
Yeah, they wouldn't hire RDJ if they didn't want to put his face on a poster or on promotional material.
Well, Tom Holland's Spider-Man is going to be so confused, right?
Yeah,
like, that's going to be so weird.
That specifically is an interesting storyline. And a lot of other people have been saying, well, yeah, there have been worlds where Doctor Doom was Tony Stark or something like that. But that's not who the character is.
Yeah.
Like if we're talking about like who the character is, that's not who that is. I do think it's kind of cheap, but that's corporate storytelling.
Yeah.
Sometimes they go with safe choices.
Russo brothers though, they're still gonna nail it.
I'm very excited about Russo brothers. I'm very excited about their Avengers, which even though that's like years down the line, I'm very excited to see their Secret Wars, to see specifically their multiversal, to see how they interpret multiversal events,
right?
To see these like big, almost crisis.
Right? And we just need to get rid of, like, I'm tired of the multiverse stuff. I want to go back to just good old fashioned world is ending type stuff.
I think it can be done well. That's the thing, because if
it
you
was
look
just overused,
maybe. I think the more problem is that so many of these movies aren't doing something interesting with it. Because from the start, when it was like,
well, it gets so convoluted too. Like they get lost in their own.
Yeah,
designs.
I'm a DC reader. I get it. Like some of it's all so self-referential. But whether it's like Flash in the '60s, like introduced the idea of the multiverse to the general public, like people who weren't into like physics. And they did interesting stuff with that, because like from the start they're like, all the comic books that these characters read are just a different universe. Yeah. And like I'm oversimplifying it a little bit, but that's something that's played on. It's doing well. Yeah. And I think if you look at in their movies too, like the Spider-Verse and Everything Everywhere All at Once, it can be done well and interesting.
Yeah. But let's get to Captain America real quick, and then we'll go further. It looks amazing. Political thriller. I know they did it back with Winter Soldier, but I don't think we've really gotten a political thriller.
And it's probably going to be a different type. because
Yeah.
that was more spy. This is gonna like more spy espionage.
This is more governmental.
This is gonna be like the president is a character.
Right.
There's
Which
stuff,
I'm excited.
There's
Harrison
stuff
Ford,
happening down in the White House.
Yeah.
I like Harrison Ford. He's good at playing presidents.
Yeah.
He's done that before.
Yeah. And then, so let's get into the story, because it looks like Ross wants, Sam Wilson to do some pretty top secret stuff that might not be super ethical.
Yeah. And
which I think is great, because it looks like he stands up for himself in this too.
Yeah.
So.
It's so far. I love the character of Sam. I love Sam Wilson, especially in these movies. I think it's very interesting, and like that specifically is what a lot of Captain America comics are about.
Mm-hmm.
It's about him like
even if he dons that red, white, and blue, it doesn't mean that he's always gonna support what the government's gonna do.
And he's quit like 3 times.
Yeah.
And I'm very interested in seeing that. I think I'm very excited. I'm very interesting because, although spoilers for the trailer if you haven't seen it, Isaiah Bradley from the
he's got some Winter Soldier stuff going on.
Yeah, he's the old guy from the
Falcon and the
Winter Soldier was like a Captain America pastiche during the Korean War in this universe. He's there, apparently plays a character, which I think is interesting. I'm glad that they're bringing more stuff from that show. That also brings in the question: is like Elijah Bradley going to be in this? His grandson. If you don't know,
he's supposed to play Patriot.
Yeah. Elijah Bradley in the comics plays Patriot, who's kind of the Captain America styled character of the Young Avengers.
He dons like the more old-fashioned shield too, like the the not the circle one, but the more emblem looking shield.
So I'm excited for that. I like Young Avengers. I want to see most of this because like I really like Hawkeye.
Mm-hmm.
Like both Hawkeyes. I love the comics.
Yeah.
I love Hawkeye. I love that show. That's probably like my favorite thing that they've done in a long time.
Yeah.
And I want to see more of that. I want to see more of the Young Avengers, and I want to see more of Ms. Marvel.
Yeah.
So hopefully this means more Young Avengers stuff. But who knows?
Yeah. We did run across, and we were just doing a little bit of homework before we started our show, and we did run into a trailer, and I really hope it's fake. Screen Crush put it out.
Yeah.
And it looks awful. Like there's some bad CGI moments. It looked like Red Hulk had, US agent in his hands, kind of whipping him around. It looked pretty awful.
Yeah.
So I really hope that, we didn't even get through the whole thing because we're like, surely this is fake. Like, we hope this is fake. Because I did see a lot of backlash online about how there were some certain parts of Captain America Brave New World that did look pretty CGI. Like, you could tell that it was shot on a green screen. And I really hope that doesn't stay consistent into the movie. I know Captain America went through a fair amount of reshoots, too.
Yeah.
So I'm really hoping that just doesn't carry over. And I hope what I saw today was super fake.
Yeah. And reshoots aren't always a bad thing.
Yeah. It shows that they care at least about, what they're putting out there. They can just say it.
A lot of good movies have had reshoots. We just don't hear about it as much because we want that narrative that is like an original vision.
Yeah.
Also, CGI isn't a bad thing.
If done right.
I don't even think an over reliance on CGI or what some people, because like if you look, the Batman in specific, had a lot of green screen background,
but you could never tell.
But you can't tell. It doesn't feel fake. It feels like you're there in that stylized version of Gotham.
Yeah. So, anyways, you want to get through? I feel like we need to talk about In a Violent Nature and The Strangers real quick, and then I think we should move on to our next topic.
And maybe a couple other movies. So
sure.
2 movies. I work at a movie theater. I'm on school break right now, but I worked at a movie theater over the spring when I wasn't doing school, and I worked last summer and the summer before that. So I get to see a lot of free movies. We saw The Strangers Chapter 1, and it was
awful. Like, I don't even want to spend 30 seconds talking about this because it was so bad, but, like, it was pretty bad. Like, cliches used to the max, awful horror movie. Like,
yeah, and
awful.
I don't like to be the person that hates on stuff, especially if it's, like, a passion project, but this isn't a passion project
No.
because like this is just a remaking of a movie that was made 20 years ago.
Yeah.
I don't know why we saw it.
You had free tickets.
Yeah, I had free tickets because I have like free I had free tickets in a month. So it was just like I texted you and like another one of our friend, Carly, and we were like, "Do you want to see this horror movie?" It's like, "Is it good?"
I walked in and I was expecting it to be bad because I looked up the Rotten Tomato score. I'm like, oof.
There were I didn't do that. There were people laughing in the theater behind us.
Oh yeah, no, complete inverse effect of what horror movies should ever do.
The opposite of that. Long Legs, the Nicolas Cage and Commando. I saw that.
Yeah.
Before I left, phenomenal.
Yeah.
If you like horror, especially if you like, because over the past decade, people have been doing a lot of different stuff with horror.
Yeah.
You have to see this movie.
Yeah. And then all I have to say about In a Violent Nature was I was walking into In a Violent Nature like this was gonna be my favorite horror movie of all time.
Because it did well at film
It did
festivals,
so well
right?
with the film critics. And then I went to go see it. I can tell you that at least half the movie, you are just like, it's like you're playing a third-person video game, except he's just walking through the woods. Like it's just a shot of him from behind, and you're just following him through the woods. Like that's half the movie. The other half, you get to kind of see like the victims, and maybe there's like an eighth of the movie where like you actually see, and it is a violent movie. Like, there are some horribly graphic and creative kills, and I have to give props to, the movie for that. It was just giving me, horrifying new nightmares, like ways that I definitely would not want to go. So yeah, it was like those. If that movie was filled more with those types of, suspense, but like there wasn't that much suspense. They tried to build on the suspense by just following the, murder around, but like it didn't do anything for me.
Yeah.
Like I was kind of looking around at everyone else, and we were kind of like, this is taking really long. So I know the fans, like the audience score, Rotten Tomatoes, like hated it, and like I have to be there too. Like I think they were trying to do something different, and it just didn't work out for everyone else.
Real quick on the movies. I said earlier I love the Planet of the Apes movies, the new ones. This one it's made by different people. Matt Reeves didn't direct it, and Andy, what's his name? Serkis.
Andy Serkis.
And Andy Serkis wasn't involved in it. By the way, he should have won 3 Oscars for Best Actor for those first 3 movies.
Yeah.
But to move on, that was a very good movie. It looked phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
It continued in the great tradition that the last 3 movies has kept up with just being a phenomenal movie.
Yeah.
Furiosa was amazing.
Yeah.
I forget. Have you seen that?
I haven't seen any of the Mad Max movies.
You haven't seen? I've just seen. Yeah, but it's phenomenal. It looks like the best looking movie I've seen this year.
I've heard great things about it. I might have to get into the Mad Max movies somewhere soon because I've heard really good things about it.
And that's it for movies for
so
us.
that's Multiverse of Movies. That's just gonna be like a little maybe 20-ish minute segment that we do, just because that's kind of our shtick.
And because there's like since we're covering stuff from like the spring, the summer, this episode, we're splitting up. So we're talking about DC movies next.
DC stuff.
Yeah. We're talking about DC movies and comics next week.
Yeah.
We are going to talk about a couple of shows from that. But yeah, don't change the channel.
That's the name of our next segment. Don't change the channel. And there's really not most of this, we're going to get through this really quickly. This probably won't even take 5 minutes. But we got our first look at Agatha All Along, which
I'm excited for.
I'm excited. This was, I see a lot of negativity being like, nobody asked for this. I'm like, okay, yes, nobody asked for this. But
people asked
it looks
for more
really
WandaVision.
good. They after WandaVision, they definitely left Agatha on a cliffhanger. Like it looked, I was kind of like, oh, what's going on with her? So the fact that we kind of get to see closure, and they are doing the mystical realm of Marvel very well so far.
Yeah.
Just based off from what we've seen from Marvel Zombies in the What If episode to Werewolf by Night, to finally see in Agatha All Along, I think it's going to do well. Like the trailer looks amazing. Like it looks, I'm definitely going to be, watching that as soon as it premieres.
I've never, in terms of like the comics, I've never been that into reading like Doctor Strange or any of like the mystical side, but when they show up in like a Spider-Man comic or an X-Men comic, it's super fun.
Yeah.
Like just thinking back to like the early 2000s Spider-Man, like whenever Doctor Strange would come in, it was like, yes, that's so much fun.
Yeah.
And that's the same thing with these movies. It's interesting. Scarlet Witch too. And even if people didn't ask for a season, like, because WandaVision season 1 was, you don't want a season 2, but people wanted specifically more stuff like WandaVision.
Yeah.
Like that's new and different, and it like. And this could be it. I'm super excited about the acting, about the choice of actors and actresses.
Yeah.
Catherine Hahn, I'm sure.
Aubrey Plaza, she's gonna be in it.
Aubrey Plaza is, I think, she can be very fun.
Yeah. She only had one line in the trailer, and like I'm like, she's gonna be a fun character to get to know.
Yeah.
The bodies are really piling up.
And she never like really been part of a big franchise. Like she's done shows before,
she's
but
done a lot of comedy work.
Yeah, she's never been part of a big franchise like this. I'm excited to see Wiccan. Who we assume is Wiccan.
We almost got a name, but then his mouth got
yeah,
almost sewed shut. Just stopped existing.
Yeah,
I guess.
Scarlet Witch's
Offspring?
magical baby from the.
There's a lot of questions that this show is going to need to answer.
It's complicated in WandaVision. It's much more complicated in the comics. Mephisto's involved, and
yeah,
we're not going to get into it, but he's a very fun character in the comics.
Yeah.
One of like the first and most important, aside from all of the Claremont X-Men stuff, which was obviously very gay.
Yeah.
One of the first out. I forget whether he's gay or bisexual, but one of the first in the 21st century after Claremont left, and married, and one of the most biggest gay marriages in comics. Married Hulkling. So that's very fun. It's nice to get that representation that has been very much lacking in the MCU so far. And if they don't do that part of the representation, because that is part from issue 1, that's part of Wiccan's character.
Yeah.
If they don't do that, then they're cowards.
Mm-hmm. I think they're going to do that, especially with all of the Hulk stuff on the horizon. It's going to happen.
Well, they didn't do that with America Chavez, who is...
Not yet, at least. She's definitely got a future in the MCU.
Yeah,
though.
I mean, maybe. Who knows? Hopefully.
But anyways, this is real quick, but we haven't heard much about Vision Quest. I mean, that was announced a couple of years ago at this point, and we really hadn't heard much about it. It's supposed to follow the White Vision that we saw close to the end of WandaVision. But our latest update on that is James Spader, who was the voice of Ultron in Avengers Age of Ultron, is set to come back, which really begs the question is like, I guess, how is Ultron still here?
Well,
I thought we got rid of him.
He's hiding somewhere in the internet.
Yeah. So I personally wouldn't mind if he comes back as some sort of villain down the road. Like I bet, for sure for Vision Quest, like he's going to probably be a antagonist, if not the primary one.
And we know so little about that.
Yeah, and I feel like they definitely could do more with Ultron. Like I think Ultron is one of he practically won. Like he in Avengers Age of Ultron. Like he still got a lot of destruction.
Yeah, that as there are flaws from the Joss Whedon Avengers movies we can talk about for a while. That's not what this is today.
No,
but Ultron in that movie was really good. Obviously not a full encapsulation of what that character can be, but I really like that version. The acting was great.
Yeah.
Looked great.
Yeah.
Worked phenomenal with the story. Talking about some shows that happened over the summer. I watched Cape Crusader.
I watched the first 5 episodes with you.
Yeah.
I loved it.
Because it pitches, it's by Bruce Timm and Greg Rucka and I forget who else, but like a bunch of people who have worked. Bruce Timm, one of the with Paul Dini, one of the main people who worked on Batman the animated series, one of my favorite shows of all time.
Yeah,
and they had a lot of comic book writers work on that too. There were really good portions. I really like their Harley Quinn. I really like their Renee Montoya.
Mm-hmm.
The vibe of it looks cool, but it's not. And it is kind of interesting to have the whole 30s, 40s noir aesthetic, but it's a show that it's that begs comparison to Batman the Animated Series.
Yeah.
And it's hard to live up to that. Even if, like, one, because of nostalgia, but B, like, that show, which I've rewatched some of it recently, is just so phenomenal.
Yeah.
And, like, the voice acting specifically, like, because, like, if you watch, like, an episode of Cape Crusader, which I think was pretty good, but if you compare it to, like, the voice acting in that original show, and even, like, the art, because even though it was, like, lower budget somewhat, and in the 90s, just, like, the art styles and the people who worked on that had created such an aesthetic that it feels like no matter how good it would have been, it's gonna feel lacking. But some cool versions of these characters. It's worth a watch if you really like Batman.
Yeah. Should we move on to comics, or do you want to talk about
there's
Superman
a couple
real
other
quick?
shows. My Adventures with Superman had a season 2 this summer. That was one of the things I was watching every Sunday morning once I got it on HBO Max. I really like that show. It's the head writer is a comic book writer I really like too, Josie Campbell. It's just such a great version of Superman, in that, along with the Lois and Clark show, which has its final season soon, has, I think, done a lot to bring that character back to what people like about that character. Has done that show's doing a great job with that. Also, Supergirl's fun with that. All of the supporting characters are fun. It's very cute.
All right. We should get to the Acolyte later, because we're kind of running.
Okay.
Late.
We can talk about the Acolyte next week.
We'll do we can either do that next week, but I really want to get to Deadpool and Wolverine and a couple of the other games that we've got coming up. But we'll get to Comics Corner first. This is where we're just going to do a quick rundown of what we're reading and kind of our spoiler-free reviews. Jonah, how about we start with your stuff? Do you have any?
Two best comics, in my opinion, that are out there. Not superhero comics. I know the show is very superhero-based. Helen of Windhorn. It's by Tom King, Biliquis Evely, Mateus Lopez. If you like Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow, which I know a lot of people did, because if you've read comics over the past 3 years, you've probably read this. They're making a movie based off of it. It's the exact same team. And Tom King wrote it in an interview I watched directly afterwards. It is a phenomenal show. It's a phenomenal book. It's created... it's meant to feel like that, but it's also something different. It's it's fantasy set on Earth. It's there's homages to like Conan the Barbarian. It's great. Nice House by the Sea. Issue 2 just came out yesterday, I believe. The sequel series to Nice House by the Lake by James Tynion IV, Alvaro Martinez Bueno, and Jordi Belair. One of the best comic horror books I have ever read, if not the best. It is like this is the great thing. It feels like an old Vertigo book. You don't need to know anything going in. There's no superheroes, no superpowers, and I don't even want to say what it's about, because I think that would spoil the first series, which you should read first. It's just every part of it. The colors, the art is phenomenal. The storytelling, James, like one of my favorite writers. Period. Definitely worth. If you can do horror, definitely worth it. It's a more existential, psychological type of horror, but it's phenomenal. Ginny Sparks #1 also came out yesterday. I know we're most of the times saving DC stuff for next week, but this, along with Nice House by the Sea's Black Label, so it's not in universe. This is by Tom King and Jeff Spokes. So far, it's looking really good. It's very interesting. If you like the old Authority stuff, which I do, I know it's not for everyone, and it's like there's flaws with it, especially when Mark Millar came on. It's a little bit fascist, but just a little bit. It's very it's very interesting, and it is I really like the Ginny Sparks character, and it's good to see her again because she kind of died 24 years ago, and it's interesting to see that within the 21st century context in 2024 by someone who I feel like is very good at writing characters like Ginny Sparks. And the art, the art is very good. Jeff Spokes is doing a good job.
Too. As for me, I've been reading a lot. I'm only gonna get to a couple of these, and I figured we can maybe sprinkle some in down the road. But what I just picked up yesterday was Image is doing a new Frankenstein comic,
Yes.
which is very fun to read. In this first issue, we get to explore how Frankenstein got his hands. That's the most I'm going to say about that, because if you know anything about me, I love the Universal monsters. I picked up Creature from the Black Lagoon over the summer. I had mixed feelings on that, but Frankenstein was very good.
Yeah, the art, I haven't read it. The art looks the art looks great.
It does look really good. As for Deadpool and Wolverine World War III, that was kind of like a fun 3-issue event. It explored Deadpool in like a more depressing light, kind of like, you know, the sadness behind the jokes, which is fine. We don't get a lot of, like, we know Deadpool copes with humor through, you know, or copes with, you know, grief and depression through humor. But it was just, it was still a really good read. I think, you know, definitely promoted the Deadpool and Wolverine movie itself to the, you know, comic fans too. One of the most notable things that happened in the 3rd issue was Deadpool was like absolutely demolished down to a single drop of blood.
Oh, they did that thing again?
Yeah, but except this time he fell in, like, the drop of blood went into Wolverine, so Deadpool grew out of Wolverine.
That's fun.
Which was really horrifying because, of course, they went on this awful, you know, like, they were just walking around and, like, Deadpool was regenerating out of Wolverine. Super disturbing. Like, very disturbing.
Yeah.
As for, there's another just solo Deadpool run right now.
Yeah.
Where, and I saw there was some news that tried to, like, clickbait and say Deadpool died. They're not trying to kill off Deadpool. Someone, like, the whole point of this story was supposed to be like, oh, Deadpool's gonna die, and he might die. But especially in the latest issue, his daughter temporarily takes over the mantle as Deadpool. And, you know, it's a super fun, you know, story to read. You know, he's got a symbiote dog named Princess that, you know, goes on covert missions with him. And he's teaming up with Taskmaster, which is really fun, and they've got a really awesome dynamic. Other than that,
I think we do need to talk about Ultimate Spider-Man, because that's one of the very few things that, along with, I guess, because we're running out of time on comics specifically.
Yes.
So we'll talk about X-Men next week, because we're both reading some X-Men stuff.
Yes.
Ultimate Spider-Man is amazing.
So good.
If you are a Spider-Man
So
fan
good.
and have been disappointed by the last 20 years of comic Spider-Man about how, like, depressing it is, if you want to see Spider-Man happy, which he is so far.
But they're gonna destroy him.
Oh yeah,
It's not gonna stick around. Like, he's got a family. He's very happy. Like, they are going to completely destroy.
But
Peter Parker.
It is great. It's written by Jonathan Hickman. He did he was the head of the Krakoa stuff. Wrote 2015 Secret Wars.
Yeah.
Phenomenal writing. Marco Gicchetto, one of my favorite artists out there.
Oh yeah.
Is doing the pencils for not all of the issues, but almost all of the issues, because, you know, he's so good, it takes him a lot of time to do that. And Gicchetto, for me specifically, he draws space better than anyone else, but I think he's transferring that to this sort of sci-fi urban environment, and he's doing a very good job at that.
Yeah. Our next segment is called Game Over. This is where you're not so much of a gamer, so I might be monologuing for a little bit. You feel free to interject if you want to. I've got 4 games that I really want to talk about. The first is Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. When this got announced, it was announced as an Xbox exclusive, and I was really bummed because I love Indiana Jones. But there was a announcement either last week or the week before that where it is still it's still coming to Xbox first, but it's supposed to hit PlayStations in the summer of 2025, which is really awesome. But this also begs the question, because we're getting a Blade game set in France that got announced last year, and I've been just scouring the internet, like, looking for, like, will Blade have the same fate as Indiana Jones? Like, I know it's going to start off on Xbox, but will it come over to PlayStation? Because I don't want to have to get an Xbox to play Blade. Like, I know, like, the Blade game looks so cool. We only got, like, maybe a minute of just teaser footage. and it looks amazing. Like
yeah, the concept of a Blade game sounds a lot like a lot of fun.
Yeah, and I might even have to bother my brother if he and like just give him money to get Blade on his Xbox, and I can like play it over winter break or something. But yeah, I do want to talk really quickly about our Fortnite experience that we had,
because so I don't play very many video games, and I haven't played Fortnite since like 2019. But this weekend, Grant brought me over to his dorm, and we played the new Fortnite stuff because there's a lot of Marvel in it.
Let's talk about the character designs first.
Character designs. I hate Doctor Doom. I hate the way Doctor Doom
So do
looks.
I like the first the Doctor Doom that I have from the first Marvel season. I like that. I know you had a problem with like his arms and like how his arms look a little too metally.
Yeah, like not metally, just like there's too much stuff.
There's too much going on. Yeah, but then they made his armor green plated for the new season. I just think that's an ugly.
It's kind of nitpicky, but I feel like Doom would say Doom does not need all of this extra stuff.
No.
Like he's and that kind of is the thing about Kirby designs.
Yeah.
Where there's all like stuff that at the time had never been seen before, but at the end of the day, it wasn't super extra complicated. It's not like these like 90 designs where there's all of these patches or like all of these sharp angles everywhere. It's very fluid.
I do need to brag real quick because we got 29 combined kills.
Yeah.
And I think it was either the last game or second to last game. We wiped out nearly a third of the entire lobby. That has never happened to me before. Like, we did so well, and I don't know why.
I don't know. Because I haven't played like video games in like 5 months.
Yeah.
But when I took a break off school, after work on night shifts a lot, I'd play like Star Wars Battlefront 2 for 2 hours, and I got kind of good at that.
Yeah.
Like in the top half, but it's a game that's been out for 7 years.
Sure.
Maybe it's that. Maybe it's that the lobby was mostly bots.
Yeah.
Who knows?
But yeah, no, that was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Finally, we've got I don't know if you know anything about this. I think my dad sent me like a link to this maybe a couple months ago, and I'd completely forgot about it until it came across my Instagram feed. But there's a game that released today called
Squirrel with a Gun,
which is exactly how it sounds. It's a squirrel with a gun. The squirrel is normal sized, but he's just lugging around a massive gun. And you can choose from all these different types of guns, but you just are like spreading chaos wherever you go. Like, people are running away from you. It's super funny, but like the gun can be used traversely. Like, if you point the gun at the ground and fire, like you can fly off of the gun, and it looks hilarious. I actually had it pre-ordered, so after the show, I'm pretty sure it should be waiting on my PlayStation when I get back. But it looks phenomenal. Like, you can do parkour with the gun. You spread chaos. I'm not exactly sure if there's a storyline or not, but it just looks like a bunch of fun just to terrorize a bunch of people because you're a squirrel with a gun. But yeah, that's our game over segment. I do want to rush into our Deadpool and Wolverine because we've only got 12 minutes left.
Yeah, and that's what, like, once we finally get this upload to YouTube or whatever, that's what this is going to be called.
Yeah.
Because that's the biggest, closest movie. We saw it together.
I've seen it 4 times.
I've only seen it once, but I didn't feel like I needed to see it 3 times. I liked the movie. It was fun.
I still cry. When I go see this movie because this was the movie that I was more excited for this than the gap between Infinity War and Avengers Endgame.
Okay. Yeah, I've never been a big Deadpool fan. I've seen the movies.
I know.
But I'm a huge X-Men fan. I've read so much X-Men. I've watched I've watched a lot of it.
It was freaking beautiful.
It was a really nice tribute to and the movie's been out for a month.
Yeah.
It's made like $1 billion. This is going to be spoiler, but it's at the end of the episode anyway. It was a very good tribute to the Fox X-Men movies and the other non-MCU
like the
Marvel
Fox
movies.
affiliated.
Yeah, Fox affiliated and there might have been some Sony in there.
Yeah.
But it's not an X-Men movie.
No.
And I think immediately during the movie I was kind of disappointed because I wanted more X-Men. But like that's just That's not.
We saw
that's
the
not
set
on
photos
me.
of Cyclops.
That's not on me.
Like James Martin can, deny it all he wants, but there was a set photo of Cyclops in the original, like blue and yellow, like I'm talking like X-Men '97
That would've been
looking
cool.
suit, but I don't think he made the cut.
I will say I did like Cassandra Nova.
She was awesome.
I'm a huge fan of what's the name of the actor who played
Emma Corrin?
Yeah, Emma Corrin.
Yeah.
They did a great job. I love the Grant Morrison X-Men run where Cassandra Nova comes from. That's a good interpretation of the character. Is it as good as it was in the comics by Grant Morrison? No, because that would be impossible. You
Sure.
can never do that. That's too high of an expectation to put on anything.
Right.
No matter how good Secret Wars is going to be, it's not going to be better than Hickman.
Right. I have questions.
good.
I have a lot of questions as we're as the movie was like wrapping up. First of all, I love the Deadpool corpse. Like, it was amazing. Like, seeing all the variants, like, it was the perfect amount of fan service that we ever got. Why were they attacking Deadpool and Wolverine?
I don't know. Maybe something was cut out.
I get it. Like, Nicepool prefaced the Deadpool Corps by saying, "Oh, like they're awful. They'll attack you." But like, why is Deadpool Prime being attacked by all the other Deadpools when none of the other Deadpools are fighting each other? It's just, we're gonna hurt Deadpool Prime. Like, maybe they made an agreement with Cassandra Nova to go back to their respective timelines. But like, I was like, I think on my like second rewatch, I'm like, wait, this is really cool, but why aren't they teaming up to fight Cassandra Nova?
I don't know, and I might have had that thought in the theater, but I was just like,
it was dumb fun.
It's not what it's
good.
about.
Yeah.
It was a good movie. I liked Wolverine. For the most part, there were like some problems I had because it kind of felt weird getting a Wolverine that we haven't seen before. That kind of since this is a goodbye to the X-Men movies.
Yeah.
That's what a lot of it was. And metatextually, it worked. Like Deadpool finding his journey of self-discovery where he learns that he matters because he's a person and he has friends and family.
Right.
Mirrors the argument that the movie makes that like these X-Men movies and Blade and whatever, they mattered. Like even like you don't need to be, it doesn't need to be part of Avengers or the MCU to matter. These were movies that meant a lot to people.
That's a beautiful symbolism that I have never even thought of. And I've seen it 4 times.
Especially X-Men and X2.
Yeah.
Because those movies meant a lot to people.
Yeah.
They got a lot of people into these worlds.
Well, they got forgotten after like MCU started up. Like, like you had Days of Future Past and First Class in there, but like if we're talking about, X-Men, X2, X-Men The Last Stand even, like those were kind of forgotten once the MCU started up.
Yeah, and I mean I haven't forgotten them because I Last Stand is a different thing.
Yeah.
But X2 is one of my favorite movies.
Yeah.
There's so much about that movie that works. Like it is as good. X-Men X2, especially X2, are as good of an X-Men movie that you could have ever expected.
Yeah.
Like, am I like a super huge fan of their versions of Rogue or Cyclops? No, but that's not like what those movies were about.
Sure.
This is like for an audience. This is like you getting the mutant metaphor of the people, like people who have maybe only ever heard of it in passing. Like this is an important metaphor where people find themselves when they're part of a minority culture. These movies matter.
Yeah. And then so part of the biggest surprise in Deadpool and Wolverine, I'd say, is Deadpool chooses not to go to the MCU. Right?
Yeah.
Like the entire, at least walking into the movie, I was like, okay, Deadpool is finally going to the MCU. We get to see how he interacts with all these heroes. There's going to be a bunch of gratuitous cameos. Like, it's going to be off the wall. And then he ultimately chooses to save his own universe, which I don't think anyone saw coming. As he was talking about how his, morals are flexible and he's not that great of a guy. I'm like, okay, finally, he's going to the MCU. But then he nabs a Wolverine out of the timeline to try to save everything, and then that's how the rest of the movie kind of goes down. And so I guess the big question is, if we get an X-Men, is this going to be set still in a technical Fox-ish universe?
Like, is it going to be in the MCU?
Is it going to be in Deadpool's universe, or is this going to be MCU?
Like the universe where Avengers
right.
and Infinity War happened? I don't know. I hope there is space stuff for the X-Men that works a lot.
Oh, sure.
Starjammers works a lot.
Yeah.
The Shi'ar Empire, I've read some good stories. But they don't really work on a multiversal level. Like there's some stuff like the Phoenix Force in the White Hot Room that that's happened over the years, but none of there's some Captain Britain stuff, but introducing the X-Men through a multiversal story where they like come over, I think one deludes the mutant metaphor.
Yeah.
And it doesn't. It would feel weird.
Yeah.
It would make these movies too complicated.
I completely agree. Yeah. But we do have a look at Gambit, maybe, because, Ryan Reynolds had posted something on his Instagram page showing a deleted scene that features Gambit, and he might be alive, and he might come back, because I know Channing Tatum, like Gambit is, to Channing Tatum what Deadpool was to Ryan Reynolds. Like,
okay.
Huge passion project. It was supposed to happen a while ago.
Yeah.
That got axed by Fox. So we might get, I don't know if we'll get a Gambit solo movie. I think, the rated R.
Would be a weird choice.
Yes.
That's not my choice for a solo movie. He's
supposed to be kind of like a skinnier.
No, yeah.
Gambit.
I mean, Channing Tatum, he's fine. He's not like
he did give a little
Gambit.
smirk to the camera at the in the deleted scene, and that smirk I could totally see work with Remy LeBeau.
He worked as a great cameo.
Yeah.
If I wanted him to be like our Gambit, like what we call our Gambit.
Yeah.
Probably not.
I'd love to see him in Secret Wars.
Maybe, yeah. But I do think if they end up doing solo X-Men movies, Gambit would be a really weird choice.
Yeah.
And they would do that because...
And also, he's a little on the older side, too. If we definitely want a younger X-Men team.
Yeah, you probably should like, with the exception of the old X-Men, like Magneto and Destiny and Professor X.
Yeah.
Most of them, if you want to make this last 15, 20 years,
right,
you've probably got to cast
younger.
Like, as much as I like adult Kitty Pryde, Kate Pryde, and adult Rogue, you probably have to start them younger. Yeah, so do we want to talk a little bit about what's happening next?
Sure. I want to give my closing on Deadpool and Wolverine because, like, that movie meant everything to me.
Yeah.
Like, I might have to go see it one more time before it leaves theaters, because that is supposed to be soon. But, I mean, what a movie. Like, it was
so
everything that I needed it to be. Like, this was, like, my one time to, like, express how awesome it was. Like, Deadpool had arguably not like his trilogy will go up against a lot of other popular movie trilogies just because of how well all three of the movies were done.
Okay.
Like, it was amazing. But yes, let's get into kind of our goodbyes, kind of saying what's on the horizon for our next episode. Hopefully it'll be a little more slowly paced. We kind of were rushed just because, we kind of had technical difficulties in the beginning, and then we had to cover everything from maybe the past 2 weeks instead.
Yeah.
So yeah, Jonah, what's our next episode gonna be?
Yeah, so we're gonna be trying to cover everything we didn't cover today. So we're gonna be covering the DC books that have come out this past year, or really since Dawn of DC. We're gonna be covering The Acolyte. We're gonna be talking about Umbrella Academy, which I'm gonna finish this weekend. What else?
Well, you know what? We can revisit, Venom and Venom Let There Be Carnage, if that's something we watch this weekend. You can kind of give your thoughts, and we can talk about the anticipation, or if you don't like it, the lack thereof.
Yeah, but I think the big thing is going to be talking about the new DC universe, because we're getting, if you guys don't know, Superman the one that's coming out in next July just wrapped. They finished shooting, and there's a lot of hype. There's a lot to talk about.
Oh, yeah.
Creature Commandos is coming out soon. There's gonna be a Supergirl movie. There's gonna be the Authority.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah. So that's our show. To everyone who tuned in, thank you so much. We definitely had fun. We're going to be here for the entire year. We've got a lot of fun projects that we'll be able to cover in the future. You know, Daredevil, which I'm really excited about, just to name a couple. But, you know, especially from now until May, we've got a lot of fun stuff to cover. So thank you so much for tuning in, and we will all see you here right back at WCRD 91.3 FM on Thursday at 3 p.m. Good afternoon, everyone.